accepted as ordinary. Inside, ICE agents and DHS officials are daily hunting trips. They cover their faces and they deploy all across New England to abduct our neighbors. Throughout the day, immigrants will also arrive here, forced to come for mandatory check-in appointments and await their fate. This office building is also being used illegally as a detention center. Immigrants who are rounded up are imprisoned in overcrowded cells. There still are no beds, so immigrants sleep on concrete floors. There are no windows or outdoor time, so immigrants never see daylight. There are no clocks, no showers, no soap, no medicine, hardly any food or water is provided. The lights are always on, and a single toilet sits exposed in each cell with a video camera mounted above. It can be days before an immigrant is granted a phone call, if ever, so loved ones don't know where they are, and many have no legal representation. And even when they do, lawyers are often denied entry to the building and are unable to meet with their clients. At this facility, human rights and constitutional rights are meaningless. Whether someone is held here for 1 hour or for 1 week, whether they have a criminal record or no criminal record, they all have constitutional rights to due process. We are here because we support the dignity and rights of everyone in this country, immigrant and U.S.-born alike, and we will keep coming back until those rights are fully restored and respected. I will pass the mic to my fellow organizing committee members so they can introduce themselves and share more about our time here today.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Reverend Andrew Harris. I'm a member of the Bearing Witness Organizing Committee. I'm also the minister at the Burlington United Church of Christ just up the street. I've got some safety and logistics information for you. I'm going to bend down to the microphone. I've got my gloves on. Don't want to have to lift it. All right, so we've got some wonderful volunteer marshals who are with us today to help. Marshals are wearing neon safety vests that look like this. Marshals, please raise your hands and wave so that everyone can see where you are. If you have a question or a concern, please locate a marshal. We also have medics who are here today with us. Medics, can you raise your hands and give a wave? Now, if you need medical assistance, please alert a marshal, and the medics will be there right away to help. Around our resource tree, which is this tree right here, you'll find more information about bearing witness and why we're here. You'll also find extra signs and flags to borrow. There are bins where you can donate food at that tree, the second tree a little farther away. We also have a first aid kit, we have water, we have snacks brought by gracious volunteers, so if you need anything, come over to our resource tree. Marshals and members of the organizing team also have QR codes that we wear on lanyards that you can scan to sign up for our mailing list or access to resources about how to support immigrants. Now, the First Amendment of the Constitution gives us the right to peaceably assemble. We are committed to peace and nonviolence in our speech and actions. Now, this is an important point, so please pay attention. There have been a few isolated instances of people, we don't know who, showing up and trying to encourage people here to escalate and to engage in actions that are not consistent with our commitment to peace. Things like throwing eggs, for example. Please, please do not take the bait. If something like that happens, walk away and alert a marshal because we are here to peacefully witness. The police have told us to stay on this side of the cones in this grassy, today snowy area. you'll see these cones right along here. If you go past that line, the police and or members of the Department of Homeland Security or ICE may come out and talk to you. They've also asked us to try to keep the sidewalk passable. And they've also asked us not to be in the grassy area in front of the ICE building over here. So please stay on the street side of the sidewalk if you're over there, unless you want to be talked to by the police. It's also important that we do not block the entrance or traffic and to be aware of vehicles when crossing the street. Please note, once again, that if you move to an area that the police have told us not to be in, they will engage with you. Now I've got a few more announcements before we get to our guest speaker today. First, I'd like to invite everybody to a special Christmas Eve gathering. Christmas Eve this year, December 24th, is on a Wednesday. And so immediately preceding our gathering, which will take place here at 11 o'clock, me and several other of our Christian clergy members, in cooperation with the Massachusetts Council of Churches, will be having a Christmas Eve worship service right here in front of this ICE building. That's at 10 a.m. on Christmas Eve. Everyone's invited. If you're of the Christian faith, you're invited. If you're not and you just like to stand next to some of your neighbors and friends as we mourn together and grieve together and also lift up hope together, then you're invited too. That's at 10 o'clock on Christmas Eve. Now I have one more bit of bad news to share. Many of you might remember our friend Esau. Esau is a Tanzanian immigrant who several weeks ago, perhaps even months ago, had an appointment here, and he was accompanied here by the Essex County Community Organization and many people from his community to bring him in and accompany him on his ICE visit. Well, he had a follow-up ICE visit on Monday, and once again there were many people here to accompany him and pray with him and walk him into that building, and people waited and waited, and Esau did not come out. And now it's been confirmed that Esau has been sent down to Plymouth, and he is now awaiting deportation procedures. Shame. This is not a criminal. This is a member of our community. This is someone who stood alongside us, our neighbor. And he walked into this building, and he may not step foot on this ground again. Now, I wanted to share this with you just to remind us all why we're here and why it's important that we stand together and bear witness outside this place so that our neighbors, members of our community, are not ripped from the streets and sent to faraway places that are not their homes. So that's why we're here, and that's why I'm grateful that all of you are here. And now let's get to our speakers for the day. I'd like to invite Ellen to share some information about the ongoing boycott of Citizens Bank. Ellen, where are you?
First, I'd love to thank Jared and Lori for organizing these incredible protests over 33 weeks. Yes. Your efforts are so appreciated. Thank you so much. And then I'd like to share something I heard on WGBH yesterday. John King was being interviewed, and he was asked what Trump was likely to do regarding the mass deportations, because they are so unpopular, as we know. The majority of Americans do not like to see non-criminals abducted off of streets. He said, what is likely true but is very unsettling, is that Trump really needs to keep his base ginned up, to turn them out for the midterm elections. And they love this. They love the mass deportations, so John King does not think that they're going to pull back. So what that tells me, that in addition to protesting, we need to do what we can to disrupt the mass deportation infrastructure. And there are many efforts underway, and people will be speaking at these protests about this, but I want to just talk about the citizens boycott. I found out about it here from Ellen and Marcia. I heard about these two women in Lexington who were working on the citizens boycott. I thought, boy, they're really on to something. So Citizens, unlike many banks, continues to do business with the companies that build the detention facilities. And we need to boycott Citizens. We need to have an impact on their core business so they will make different decisions. And we have had a banner designed and for use at standouts at Citizens Bank branches. I need you to use your imaginations. I need you to imagine 3 feet by 6 feet, because our printer's machine went down today. But anyway, we would like to make available these banners to people who are willing to organize standouts at Citizens Bank branches. They're not cheap, but if anyone needs a free one, we can help out. Otherwise, perhaps you could cover the cost yourselves. This is how you can find us. I'll give you my email address on a post-it, and you can just email me and we can be in touch. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here today in the snow. My name is Lori Beresin. I'm one of the organizers of Bearing Witness at ICE. And I want to tell you about someone who was abducted and brought here last week. Her name is Annie, and she's a 19-year-old first-year student at Babson College. Annie booked a flight out of Boston's Logan Airport to fly to Texas to surprise her family for Thanksgiving. After passing through security and scanning her boarding pass to get on the plane, she was told there was a problem with her ticket and to go to customer service. That's when ICE shackled her, dragged her away, and put her in a van. The ICE agents would not tell her why they were detaining her. They brought her here to Burlington. The following day, a judge issued an emergency order prohibiting the government from moving her out of Massachusetts, let alone the U.S., for at least 72 hours. Despite this order, ICE illegally sent her by way of a military base, which we can only assume was nearby Hanscom Airfield, to Texas and then Honduras, the country of her birth, where she hasn't lived since the age of 7. Is Annie one of the worst, as the Trump administration have insisted they are targeting for deportation? What was Annie's crime? Annie was a child when she arrived here in the U.S., and though their family was denied asylum in 2017, the judge in that case assured them there were no deportation orders. Annie is simply a teenager following her dream. She is now in Honduras, instead of in her home or at school. Annie spoke to the Boston Globe from Honduras and said, quote, "I have worked so hard to be able to be at Babson for my first semester. That was my dream. I'm losing everything." We are grateful that Annie has grandparents in Honduras to stay with, as many who are being deported do not know anyone in the countries they are being deported to. But that makes her story no less horrific. This should not be happening. Since Annie's situation made the news, ICE now claims that an immigration judge had ordered Annie to be deported in 2015 when she was just 9 years old. Her lawyer has not found any evidence to back this bogus claim, and of course ICE has not produced any evidence because who will hold them accountable? Representative Seth Moulton, who visited this building on Monday, was asked about ICE defying the court order and violating Annie's constitutional right to due process in Burlington. Rep. Moulton stood in this very spot and said, quote, "Annie is a victim of bad luck. There was already a flight scheduled, a regular rotation flight to move detainees out of here so they're not stuck for extended periods of time." I disagree with Moulton's assessment, which presumes that having a plane fueled and ready to fly out of Hanscom justifies or explains deportation without due process. Annie is not a victim of bad luck. She was not in the wrong place at the wrong time. She did not commit any crime. Annie is a victim of an atrocious and horrifying system that our tax dollars pay for. We must not stand for this.
Hi, I'm Jared Beresin, one of the organizers of Bearing Witness at ICE. I'm here to tell a story from history. 70 years ago today, on December 3rd, 1955, the residents of Montgomery, Alabama, saw a peculiar statement in their morning newspapers. The statement was drafted by a small committee of ministers, including a young preacher named Martin Luther King Jr. The statement read, and bear in mind there's dated language that we wouldn't use today, but it read, quote, "Don't ride the bus to work, to town, to school, or any place on Monday. Another Negro woman has been arrested and put in jail because she refused to give up her bus seat. If you work, take a cab, or share a ride, or walk." 2 days earlier, on December 1st, Rosa Parks was arrested. Rather than being charged with disorderly conduct, which had been the common charge levied against black people who had remained seated on a bus, the police charged Rosa Parks with violating the city's segregation law. This specific charge, together with the community's support for her legal defense, would enable the case to eventually make its way to the Supreme Court. Now, the evening before the boycott was scheduled to begin, Dr. King could hardly sleep. He had a young baby at home who was crying most of the night, and he wrestled with the morality of the boycott method. He questioned whether it was a moral course of action if it caused economic harm to others. He also wondered whether enough people would participate because it would greatly inconvenience everyone. That first morning of the boycott, Coretta Scott King called her husband over to the window of their home that overlooked a usually busy bus stop. To their surprise, not a single person was waiting at the stop, and when a bus arrived, it was empty except for a couple of white passengers. Dr. King hopped in his car to survey other bus routes in the city, and this is what he saw, quote, "During rush hours, the sidewalks were crowded with laborers and domestic workers trudging patiently to their jobs and home again, sometimes as much as 12 miles. They knew why they walked, and the knowledge was evident in the way they carried themselves. And as I watched them, I knew that there is nothing more majestic than the determined courage of individuals willing to suffer and sacrifice for freedom and dignity." That first day was a success, but city officials and the bus company assumed it wouldn't last. Dr. King and his team also worried that participation would dwindle, and they debated whether to call the whole thing off, but they decided to forge ahead. Dr. King wrote, quote, "The first rainy day came and passed, and buses remained empty." In those early days of the boycott, black taxi drivers offered to take people to work for 10 cents a ride, regardless of the destination, since that was the price of bus fare. Soon, however, the police began to enforce a little-known law on the books that prohibited taxi drivers from charging less than 45 cents, and the police commissioner threatened to arrest every cab driver who violated this law. In response, the organizers coordinated a volunteer carpool service, setting up specific pickup and drop-off locations throughout the city that ran continuously all day. To help pay for gas, a group of women sold baked goods to both blacks and whites, giving all profits for gas and repairs. Soon, however, the police began harassing and arresting carpool drivers for imaginary traffic violations. They threatened to revoke driver's licenses and car insurance policies. The mayor of Montgomery praised the arrests, while other politicians remained silent. Despite these efforts to take away taxis and cars from the black community, the buses remained empty. Dr. King wrote, quote, "The act of walking, for many, had become of symbolic importance. Once a carpool driver stopped beside an elderly woman who was trudging along with obvious difficulty. 'Jump in, grandmother,' he said. 'You don't need to walk.' She waved him on. 'I'm not walking for myself. I'm walking for my children and my grandchildren.'" Now, you might assume, as I had for many years, that the demand of the boycott was to end bus segregation in Montgomery. That was not the case. The organizers had 3 demands, which Dr. King presented in a meeting to the mayor, city officials, and the attorney for the bus company. These 3 demands were, 1, a guarantee of courteous treatment by bus drivers; 2, passengers to be seated on a first-come, served basis, with blacks seating from the back to the front and whites seating from the front to the back. And 3, employment of black bus operators on predominantly black routes. The mayor and city officials roundly rejected all 3 of these demands. Dr. King reflected on that meeting. He wrote, quote, "I had gone to the meeting with a great illusion. I had believed that the privileged would give up their privileges on request. I came to see that no one gives up privilege without strong resistance. Even when we asked for justice within the segregation laws, the powers that be were not willing to grant it." As the boycott continued, Dr. King's house was bombed. He was arrested and jailed for allegedly driving 30 miles an hour in a 25-mile-an-hour zone. Then city officials dug up an old state law that said boycotts were illegal in Alabama. So one day, more than 100 people, including Dr. King, were charged with conspiracy for organizing an illegal carpool system. On the day of that trial against Dr. King and others, literally in the middle of the trial, a reporter entered the courtroom and passed a note to Dr. King. The note stated that the Supreme Court had just affirmed that Alabama's state and local laws requiring segregation on buses was unconstitutional. Rosa Parks' case had made its way through appeals to the Supreme Court, and despite that ruling, on that same day, Dr. King and his fellow organizers were found guilty of an illegal carpool in violation of Alabama's anti-boycott law. Dr. King wrote, quote, "On that day, 2 historic decisions were rendered. One to do away with the carpool, the other to remove the underlying conditions that made it necessary." The organizers announced the end of the bus boycott shortly thereafter on December 21st, 1956. It had gone on for 382 days. The black community in Montgomery succeeded in overcoming bus segregation through a combination of organized activism and legal challenges, both working in parallel, all despite the active resistance of politicians, law enforcement, and the majority of their white neighbors. Reflecting on the boycott, Dr. King wrote, quote, "I came to see that what we were really doing was withdrawing our cooperation from an evil system, rather than merely withdrawing our support from the bus company. I conceived of our movement as an act of massive non-cooperation." Right now, in America today, we are bearing witness to massive cooperation from judges, Congress, the military, law enforcement, and a majority of Americans who are cooperating with an evil system that's working to cleanse our country of those deemed undesirable through immoral and illegal actions. In the judicial branch, when the Supreme Court declares that a person's skin color, accent, and profession is probable cause for harassment, violence, and detainment, that is massive cooperation. When immigration judges, who are part of the executive branch, refuse to hold bond hearings so that ICE can detain and deport as many people as possible, that is massive cooperation with an evil system. In Congress, massive cooperation is passing a spending bill that gives $45 billion for new immigration centers, $30 billion for enforcement and deportation operations, $46 billion for additional border wall construction, and $10 billion for a DHS slush fund, totaling more than $131 billion, all while the town of Burlington and other towns across our country don't have enough money to repair and build schools.
And they can't even afford mattresses.
And I think we all know what massive cooperation looks like among our Massachusetts delegation in Congress. They cooperate by abiding by a rule that ICE invented in June instead of adhering to the actual law that gives every member of Congress the right to make unannounced inspections to, quote, any facility operated by or for the Department of Homeland Security used to detain or otherwise house aliens, as in Burlington. Now, it's true. Many of our elected officials are working to help a handful of individual immigrants whose names happen to cross their desks. That is true. That is important. But without taking any steps to fight the system that has abducted more than 4,000 of our neighbors whose names will never cross their desks, they're cooperating with an evil system and failing our communities. And when it comes to the military, we've seen what massive cooperation with ICE looks like. It's allowing DHS and ICE to set up planning bases, detention warehouses, and deportation flights on military bases. Our brave soldiers are better than this, aren't they? Yes! We see what massive cooperation looks like for local police across our country. It's performing crowd control for abductions, never asking federal agents for identification or judicial warrants, never checking on the well-being of community members being abducted, and not lifting a finger to protect immigrants' constitutional rights while they're being violated right in front of their eyes. So when I think about the act of massive non-cooperation that was announced 70 years ago today in Montgomery, Alabama, I'm reminded that it is and has always been up to us to bring justice into this world. It's up to us to not cooperate with an evil system.
Yes.
So what does non-cooperation with ICE look like? Non-cooperation is reading the damn Constitution. Non-cooperation is standing in plain sight to express love and support for our immigrant neighbors and to express shame at the criminal actions of our government. Non-cooperation is speaking the truth. Non-cooperation is recording ICE even when our government claims that recording is assault. Non-cooperation is marching for justice. Non-cooperation is giving our money to support organizations that help clothe and feed our neighbors and to organizations that defend them to the end in court. As the residents of Montgomery taught us 70 years ago today, whether it's walking, standing, sitting, cooking, delivering food, these ordinary and commonplace behaviors become profound when done in the pursuit of life, liberty, and justice. Each week, while bearing witness, we tap into these timeless traditions of nonviolent resistance because it's the right thing to do. It's the moral thing to do, and it's the strategic thing to do. Nonviolent resistance has a depth, a reach, and a power far greater than any fist, greater than any weapon, greater than any insult. And so we're here, week after week, in the sweltering heat, in the freezing cold, to match our government's visible violence and cruelty with our equally visible nonviolence and compassion. Dr. King wrote, quote, "Non-cooperation with evil is just as much a moral obligation as is cooperation with good. Let's not give our government and its allies 1 ounce of our cooperation. Let's not let them change us. Let's not let our pride or ego or fear get in the way of massively cooperating with all who support immigrants and nonviolence. Let's grow this loving solidarity." Thank you.
That was amazing, Jared and Laurie. Let's give it up for both of them being amazing leaders for all of us. I'm Rabbi Susan Abramson. I'm the rabbi at Temple Shalom Lamothe, right up the street, right next to Andrew's Church. And I just have some last bit of announcements, and we have a special song which is going to be performed today by one of our standees. And first of all, I also wanted to thank every single one of you again for standing out here in the cold and the inclement weather. We will stand or sit with our signs to bear witness and show our community what we believe. Well, we're going to turn our speakers to face the building after the presentation
And if you'd like to come up to the microphone and take a turn reading key amendments of the Constitution and the definition of due process, you may do so. All federal agents and officials swear an oath to the Constitution, and we want to remind them of what they're violating, and you're going to have a personal chance to do that. At 12:30, we'll assemble on this side of the street and march down District Ave together to the corner and onto Mall Road, the sidewalk on Mall Road. We'll walk on this side of the street only, remaining on the sidewalk and the grass. We'll march very slowly and stand in the corner, then walk back to this facility together. Remember, if you do encounter any troubling behavior today, please just walk away and notify one of the marshals in a neon vest. If an escalation should occur, just remove yourself from the area. Do not engage. ICE agents and others may be recording us with their phones. They have that right. We also have the right to take photos and record, so please do so. And if you happen to hear a helicopter go by, that's for the Leahy Clinic helipad, which is right over there. I'm going to wrap up my part by asking you 3 questions. Do you support immigrants?
Yes!
Do you support the Constitution?
Yes!
Are you committed to nonviolence?
Yes!
And to be safe, take care of each other. Thank you for standing in solidarity. And it's now my pleasure to invite up Tom Jordan, who wrote this special song inspired by his bearing witness for previous occasions.
Thank you.
How's everyone doing? Yeah? I'm representing Greater Haverhill Indivisible. I'm a 35 years history teacher. It warms the cockles of my heart to show up here and get a history lesson from Jared about the fabulous Martin Luther King. Thank you, Jared. Anyway, this song goes out to Annie and everyone else who's been treated poorly. If you live south of the border with your baby and your wife, and the cartels run your town and you're fearing for your life, if you take a chance and pack your bags, head up to the border, apply for asylum, all your papers are in order. Now it's taken them forever, but it seems like you can stay. You got your last meeting with the judge today. If this is you, it'll be ice to meet you. It'll be ice to meet you in the courthouse. It'll be ice to meet you when they come to take your kid. It'll be ice to meet you even though you've done no wrong. It'll be ice to meet you, then you're gone. And if you are that woman with a dream in your soul, coming here for college is your lifelong goal. You've filled out applications, turned in all your grades, applied for asylum, the deposit has been made. You say goodbye to mom and dad, and now you're on your way. You are gonna be a great doctor someday if this is you. It'll be ice to meet you. It'll be ice to meet you in your dorm room. It'll be ice to meet you as you make your way to class. It'll be ice to meet you as you walk across the lawn. It'll be ice to meet you, then you're gone. They cover up their faces like the KKK. They don't have a warrant, but they take you anyway. If you seek a better life, then I am here to say, it'll be ice to meet you. And if you are that young man, whiter than white, you know about your privilege, so you're making things right. You march in every protest, show up for every fight. You take on every MAGA on your laptop every night. You know you are untouchable, no need to be discreet. You are gonna join all the masses in the street if this is you. It'll be ice to meet you. It'll be ice to meet you on the corner. It'll be ice to meet you when you march in that parade. It'll be ice to meet you when you're belting out that song. It'll be ice to meet you, then you're gone. It'll be ice to meet you. And then you're gone. Keep it up. Just hang on. We're going to do it.
And thank you to our other musicians who are here every week, Richard and Tom. So thank you all of you.